these children are bored to death with the system. They want the images coming at them at light speed, really fast. The computer is an extension of their brain. And we have created a new type of child that is ready to, I mean, when they come into the line, they're going to do things with this computer you can't even imagine, because they are a new kind of person that have emerged. And this has happened, and it's real. And many of you probably have indigo children and may not know it. But I really, really, really recommend that you read this book if you've got kids, because you can't treat them in the same way. First of all, they're totally telepathic and they know everything you're thinking. And if you lie to them, they know it. And they will react back to you in a certain way. And you have to be able to raise them in a whole new manner. And these are all the psychologists and the doctors and everything that are telling you what you have to do in order to raise an indigo child. There probably are ones that are older, but they first started seeing the wave of them coming through in about 1988. And so most of them are 11 years old or younger, the vast majority of them. And that's rising faster now. It's risen. So right now it's up to about 80, they're estimating. It wasn't in the beginning, but at this point in 1999, according to this book, which just came out a couple months ago, that it's about 80 to 90%. And these children are going to have an impact on the world and on the United States in a way that we can't even imagine right now. We really can't, because it's still children, they're still babies, and who they really are and what they're going to mean is something extraordinary. I'm communicating with Billy Zane, you know, the guy, the actor who is on Titanic and did the whole thing with Cleopatra and all that stuff. He's actually a really beautiful person inside, and he's doing all kinds of things. And they're setting up a thing with Microsoft right now to create a new kind of television to deal with these children. A whole new way of TV, which they will appreciate, because the TV, Microsoft has invented this new software program that you can connect your television in through the computer or your computer in through the television. And it has a special little remote, so you don't need to use the keyboard. And it shrinks the screen down and puts icons all around the outside. The inside is the TV. So back at the station, they're commuting through there. But you can totally interact with the television through this little thing, which will give rapid interaction for the children, which is exactly aimed at these new kinds of kids. And this is a big deal. It's going to come out relatively soon. They're going as fast as they can. And because the indigo children right now, the old way of raising kids and the speed at which everything is going, and the ways you take, a month to learn a few words and all this kind of stuff, it's just like yuck, and they just want to drop out. It's too slow. You got to really step it up, And if you find any of the indigo children, if you put them into any area that they are interested in, no matter what you think of them, when they get to that area, if they like it, if they're interested in that area, I don't care what it is, they'll become a genius overnight. That all of a sudden their whole thing blossoms out, and they can shoot for it. And so be aware that this is happening. So you know, because these little guys running around are not who you think they are. They're really something else. That's the first race. There's another race being emerged. And this is this one's documented in a book by Greg Braden, Walking Between the Worlds. Is Greg Braden here? He was maybe going to show up. I guess he didn't. He didn't make it. Okay. If he was going to hear, I was just going to let him tell about it. But Greg is a great guy. I really respect the work that he's doing, and not only the work that he's doing, but as a person, he's a really good person. But he was the first one to bring forth the second race of beings that are being born. About 10 years ago, and this second race I'm calling, there's no name for it, so I'm calling it the children of AIDS, the disease AIDS. They found this child who was born with AIDS, He was definitely filled with AIDS. It wasn't HIV, he had AIDS. His mom had AIDS and he was born from it. And they checked him at birth and he had AIDS, and they checked him 6 months later and he had AIDS, and I think they checked him a year later and he had AIDS. And then they didn't check him again until he was in kindergarten. And they checked him in kindergarten when he went to school, and there was no trace. It did not exist in his body. No HIV, no nothing. In fact, the conclusion was, it not only didn't exist, it was not hidden or anything anywhere in his being. It simply wasn't there anymore. And they had never seen that before. And many people jumped on, many different research people jumped on board there to try to determine what was going on. You had the University of California, UCLA, and you also had the Aaron Diamond Research Center in New York, which researches only AIDS, and there were other universities that began to check this out. And when the Aaron Diamond Research Center checked him out, I believe that's who it was. I might get my research sources here mixed up, but it could have been UCLA. They took a petri dish and they put HIV in it on a very, very, very high level, like 100 times over what would be necessary to infect someone. They took some of this kid's cells and they put them in there. Nothing happened. Totally immune. So they kept making it more and more poisonous. They kept raising the level of toxicity. And they finally got up to 3,000 times over what would be necessary to infect anybody. It'd be so poisonous that if you didn't even look at that stuff, you'd probably get sick. And no effect. And they began to check him on other diseases and began to realize that his immune system was so strong that he was immune to disease, period, everything. He couldn't get sick. And they checked his DNA. This is one we do know. They checked the DNA of this child, and he didn't have human DNA. He wasn't a human being. Human DNA is very specific. It has so many strands, so many chromosomes, so many codons. It's very, very, very specific. He didn't have that. He had something else. The primary change, which was not in the number of strands, which is what everybody's been predicting, or in the chromosome levels or anything else, it was in the codons. The codons are made up of the nucleic acids. There's 4 nucleic acids. The nucleic acids combine in sets of 3, producing 64 possible codons. And by the way, the arrangement of the codons and how they are created is absolutely identical to the I Ching. And so in fact, the entire DNA molecule is exactly the same as the DNA. As the I Ching. So the DNA and the I Ching are precise matches. So that's one of the oldest books in the world, and they knew this. It's another indication that we were somebody else once, a long time ago. A little more intelligent than we are now, probably. And but these codons, to me, are like software programs in a computer. You know, you can have the greatest computer in the world sitting there, you know. But so what if there's no software in it? And depending on the software that you put into the computer will do different things. Well, the human DNA has 20 of these 64 possible codons turned on. And that's just the way it's always been. These kids have 24. They have 4 new codons turned on. In the old way of looking at codons, they thought they were things of the past and that we no longer used anymore. Now they're beginning to suspect that they're actually things of the future, that because of these children. And there's actually 6 codons that they've identified which they are, but each one of the children chooses 4 of the 6. So we're actually getting many different kinds of DNA molecules and different kinds of immune systems that are being emerging here. It's life's way of diversifying and finding out which one probably is the best. Eventually maybe we'll choose them all eventually, I don't know. But we don't even know what really the differences is. But we do know is that these kids have an immune system like the world has never, ever seen before.